So, Apple just accused OpenAI of building its hardware program with stolen trade secrets. Two companies that were partner on the iPhone are now in a federal court over the device meant to compete with it. So Apple proves its case. OpenAI hardware launch on May, and it may be stopped before customers see it.
Human in the Loop is a weekly podcast where two builders cut through the noise of the AI hype cycle to talk about what actually matters. I'm Matt Wozniak, a serial builder and relentless executor. I come from the lens of execution, what works and what doesn't.
And I'm Oscar Gallo. I am an AI engineer and entrepreneur, and I live in the intersection between engineering and business. So let's start with our first segment, which is Signal or Noise, where we talk about the news, but without the AI hype, right? So let's jump into number one, which is Apple sues OpenAI over alleged trade secret theft. And this one is super entertaining. This looks like a full soap opera, but so on July 10, 2026, Apple filed a federal lawsuit against OpenAI, uh, pretty much the AIO products, and two former Apple employees. Apple alleged that OpenAI encouraged recruits to share confidential hardware information and evade Apple security control. The complaint names OpenAI hardware chief Tan. I don't even know if that's how, like, all these names, man. Engineering Shang Liu. Apple says that the material covered unannounced products, technical specifications, components, and supplier choices. OpenAI says that it was reviewing the filing, and the spokesperson say that the company has no interest in other companies' trade secrets, which we know is a lie. These are allegations, and the court has not ruled on them. And I would say this is Signal, and let me explain why I think this is Signal. So, the last episode we were talking about the ship that is going to be launched by OpenAI, Jalapeno, and I say something along the lines of, you know how weird it is that they say that these guys were able to launch a new hardware product in 6 months? That makes zero sense. Like, if you ever work with hardware, you know how extremely annoying it is to build anything, okay? And I'm not like some expert or anything like that, but before studying software, I studied mechanical engineering. And I know how hard it is to build like physical stuff, It's really, really hard, let alone something as powerful as these new ships, right? And this looks a lot like they could just stole what Apple Silicon is doing in a lot of ways. And it feels weird, right? Because it's like the timing is perfect, right? They got these people from Apple, which is insane. And looks like one of the engineers that moved from Apple to OpenAI, he did not return the computer that he was used to work. He kept the computer, and looks like he was not blocked after leaving the work. So pretty much looks like he stole some of the documents. I mean, these are allegations, okay? I'm not. Don't please. We don't want a lawsuit. I'm just saying what. Yeah, these are allegations, okay? That this guy got access to all these documents and everything looks shady, because supposedly they had an agreement, right? That they were not going to be stealing people from each other because they work together, and this is probably the reason why, in the beginning, the Apple agreement with Siri was to use ChatGPT, but now it's Google, right? So this probably has been cooking for quite like a year, probably, right? Because you don't make a change that big if you trust, right, the business behind. You do it because you don't trust the business. And there's this VC founder that is kind of famous, Jason. So Jason has been saying that whatever you do with OpenAI, and like building perks on top of it, they will steal it from you. And he was like, yeah, you can do it, but think about it, right? Like, they will steal the data from you and they will try to build something that you were doing. And this is their plan. This has always been their plan, right? So it clicks perfectly, sadly, what with Jason has been saying about it, uh, and the worst part is, like, I feel like they need to be smarter about stealing stuff. I feel like they're like, because the process, everything is going so fast that they don't care anymore. It's like we have like 3 months max before we get removed from completely being in the market, because of all these businesses are just launching nonstop. So they're getting sloppy because of that. They really wanted to have their own chips. They didn't. They got this partnership with Apple, and then magically they have a new a new chip. And sadly, they even stole some of their engineers related to that. So everything is looking shady. Everything is looking shady. I'm not going to say anything. Okay, as I think we had discussion the last episode, but right now we're balancing a little bit between Anthropic and OpenAI, having both of them to see how they are competing wise, of course, right? We're using a Sol and we're using a Fable. Uh, but something that we have repeated a thousand times is that these are not moral businesses, really. They will do anything. And this looks like it could be the case, sadly. This looks like it could be perfectly the case. That that they are stealing secrets, that they are stealing the engineers from Apple. Um, so yeah, I think I'm going to second that if you're building anything on top of OpenAI, just be careful. Everything can happen there, but probably the same will be for Anthropic. I don't think they did it with Figma, right? They stole everything and they created a Figma design. So they took Figma and they just made cloud design. So same thing. So what do you think about this?
So this is, I mean, I'm the farthest thing from a legal expert, but there's a few ways to look at this, right? And this partnership, like if they were really able to just headhunt their competitors slash partners engineers directly to their company, then their legal team needs to reach out to someone because their contract was written horribly. I mean, it's pretty standard in most contracts saying that you're not allowed to go work for any competitor for X amount of years after you finish employment here, right? So the fact that they were to jump directly there, like in the midst of a partnership project, that's strange to me. I'm surprised it wasn't covered in the contract because it's totally legal to headhunt people, but like you said, it's not legal to bring your actual laptop with all the data from the other client and start working on a project with that stuff. And then number two, it's very surprising to me that these people left the company. Keeping their laptop is one thing, but still having access to everything for so long is insane to me. Um, Especially at such a big company, you would think that would be locked down immediately
Mm-hmm.
upon termination of the employment. But at the same time, if they are building something to compete with the iPhone, it's going to be better than the iPhone and potentially is currently better than the iPhone. Apple has like a competitive reason to jam things up via the legal system. I don't know if this is the type of lawsuit, whether it's civil or whatever, if it's going to have any type of what's it called when like discovery, right? Where they have that
Mm-hmm.
stage of a trial where you have to like bring forth all your evidence and both parties get to review everything. That right there, like depending on what Apple is allowed to see in discovery, if it's even a thing, like in this type of lawsuit. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much about the legal system, but if discovery is a part of this like case or court case or whatever, then are they going to be allowed to just see their actual like notes for their project, like their competitors' notes, that to like verify if it's their own designs? So I'm interested to see that, and like you said, there's no way for us to know exactly what happened until something is proven somewhere, and I almost don't see this going like the distance. I probably see this being settled out of court, and it's just going to fizzle out. I don't think this will be a story for much longer because with the speed at which things progress, if they spend too much time on this, then they're going to be behind. They're going to be like Huawei or Samsung or some other company is going to blow past them while they're sitting here bickering over this.
I think it's highly probable that actually this stolen data from Apple was already sold out in the dark market, and now there are
Everyone's
other business. Yeah, yeah. Everybody will be like, oh, okay, let's build our own version, for sure. Uh, because again, like a lot of these problems with Apple started happening when they opened. Uh, so they were concerned about about China, right? And they were like, let's open some businesses in India so we can keep building, right? And literally not even a year after they opened the business, all the things from the new iPhones they were already being sold on the darknet. Like it's insane, Like this is like
can't
the
trust
level of
nobody, dude.
immorality.
No.
Yeah. And the worst part is like I think it was the iPhone Pro Max, 18 Pro
Yeah,
Max, that it
the one
hasn't
I got
even
is
touched
the
the
one I'm building
market.
on right now.
You can buy one already.
Yeah.
You can
Well, you
buy
saw
one,
that thing.
like,
I forget which country it was. I saw like a short of it, and it could have been like fake news or whatever. But they like popped open like the metal frame of this truck, and they just pulled out like 200 like brand new phones, like that were like counterfeit phones, and they were hidden in a truck that was going over the border to some country, and they were going to sell them like before Apple sold them.
yeah. It's insane the level of like this is like a new level of scamming that we haven't seen before in our lives.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, next story. Let's see where are we at. So Meta releases Muse Spark 1.1 and the Meta Model API. It's hard to say. Say that 5 times fast. Meta Model API. So what happened on July 9th? Meta released Muse Spark 1.1, a multimodal reasoning model used for tool use, computer use, coding, and longer running tasks. Meta says it can manage a 1 million token context window, delegate work to subagents, and operate across changing interfaces. Developers can access it through the new Meta Model API in public preview. This is the first time outside developers can build directly on Muse Spark through Meta's own API. So, Meta just turned Muse Spark from a feature you use into a model you build on. The real question isn't whether it wins a benchmark, because we've talked about how we feel about benchmarks. It's the question is how well does it perform on these long running tasks? And I mean, I really don't care about a context window. I don't care how big the context window is, because if you're using these models correctly, you have some type of like architecture that's going to refresh the context window without losing the important context, right? I mean, it's not like built into a lot of these models, because it even happens to me sometimes if I'm being lazy and I'm just using the same interface for a while. All of a sudden, I get that crazy like, oh, compacting conversation, and I'm like, oh no, I'm like, oh crap. So I mean, longer running context windows, longer running tasks. It's I want to see how well it's going to perform, and the fact that it's being run over an API, I'm interested to see how that works. And I'm also interested to see, because if it's just an API, I'm trying to think like, is it just like the same thing as running it locally, but they're running it locally and you're just sending requests through an API? I mean, it's an interesting direction. I've even seen the memes online about like, oh, just get rid of your entire REST API and just have one post that takes in like a prompt from your user, and it talks to your agent and it gives it back. I mean, it's almost heading that actual direction now, which is actually kind of scary. But I still think you're going to need actual architecture, actual infrastructure in place. You can't just replace everything with a prompt ingestion.
you
What do you
can
think?
test this actually right now on open code. I think open code already implemented this around, with their own harness, so that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. Well, preview means unfinished, in my opinion. Like that's why I like to relate this back to like years ago. Every new game that comes out on Steam and it's like, oh, it's in like alpha beta version. Like I used to buy them all and then realize that it's unfinished and it's never going to be
Mhm.
finished because it's never going to go to full release. So now I'm at the point where if it's a pre-release, if it's a alpha version, beta version, preview, like Talk to me when it's fully released, and I'll try it out. Because it
Mhm.
till until you're confident enough to say this is a full version one, I don't want to touch it. I'm interested to hear about it. I might play with it a little bit, but I'm not gonna bet the house on it.
Agree, agree. To be fair, it was not in my bingo card. Meta coming back to business. You know what I mean? And like they have been failing so badly that the last thing that I expected was them to launch a model that was decent. But because to be fair, there are two benchmarks where they do better than Opus, and that's already a big leap because they were doing worse than Gemini. Okay, like it's how bad they were. You know, like doing worse than Gemini should be a crime. But but the reality is like they were their models were very bulky, very slow. They had a huge tendency of hallucination. They were really bad. They were really really bad. This is the first time we're seeing them like I don't know, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, right? For the first time ever, and I did not expect it. I mean, we were making fun of Meta actually last week, not so long ago, about them never recovering. And these are great news. These are great news for everybody because the reality is like the more competition, the better for us. And if I remember correctly, the two benchmarks where they are actually winning, it's computer usage, which is that they are faster. They use less tokens because Opus use a lot of tokens to use computer, right? I don't remember which one was the other one. I think was like a long running task or something like that. I think. So that's pretty nice. That these can say probably to us that we can use Muse as a coordinator of other sub agents, right? And maybe use like more powerful sub agents for specific tasks. But
Yep.
because Muse can run for longer, still doing a good job, that will probably be like a good use of this model.
Yeah, a good
But yeah,
point.
I wasn't ready for them to actually launch anything useful. Congratulations to Meta, like for real. Like,
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought they were just gonna go the hosting route and then steal everyone's stuff, which they're still gonna do.
yeah.
But I mean, the thing with Meta is they're like such a huge company, like so much money, and they just have the capacity to have so many projects going, even if they totally fail, right? Like
Mhm.
what was it, the metaverse that people were buying land in, saying it was going to be.
Billions, billions of dollars spent on that. Like, what the hell?
I don't even know if I would call it a failure because they got paid so much money for it and then just had to do nothing for it, right?
Do you remember when they were selling real estate inside the metaverse?
Yeah.
I wanted to slap everybody that got into
Yeah,
that.
people
Like,
bought like Madison Square Garden. They bought like it's like okay, like I'm never gonna visit it. It's crazy. Like it's like making a Minecraft server and like selling plots of land.
yeah, literally like that. That's a great equivalency. Yeah. See, I don't want to remember this era of like the crypto era. Well, not crypto, but NFT era and all this craziness was like it was one of the dumbest moment of tech in human history. I hated that era so much, and I'm so happy it's over. But at least I think it's over. You
Hope so. Guess we'll see.
know. Okay, so let's jump into news number three, which is a big one and a cool one. Okay, so OpenAI releases ChatGPT 5.6 across ChatGPT, Codex, which was now combined into ChatGPT application, and there's one app only now, and their API. And I will call this 100% signal. Let me explain. So on July 9, OpenAI made GPT 5.6 available across everything, right? And the family has three tiers, which is Soul, which is their hardest worker, bigger, like let's say like their Fable version, right? And then you have Terra, which is supposed to be a little bit more for like balance, capability, and cost. And then you have Luna, which is like for fast, high volume task, right? Like small things, right? And well, we already did a few tests around this, and I will call this signal, but I'm not going to lie that it's really hard to put these things together in a way that makes sense. Okay, because not only on our own experiences, but this shows on a lot of the benchmarks. A lot of the times, Luna, which is the smaller one, outperforms Terra in a lot of situations, and it's very weird. Like it should not be the case, and we are not sure why it's the case. Like, yeah, it needs to be on Ultra, okay, which is the highest thinking level, but it's still cheaper than Terra on everything, and it doesn't make any sense. But then, for some things, Luna is actually really bad, and Terra outperforms like 2 times, 3 times Luna, like that discrepancy is like very confusing to me. It's like super confusing, and so and then you have Sol, right, which is like the biggest, like the best of the best, um, and it's if we compare 5.5, Luna will be 5.5, but better, pretty much cheaper, faster. Terra is supposed to be like, like the entry point really to 5.6, if we think that way. And then we have Sol as like this massive model. Um, but there are several issues with Sol, or rather not with Sol, but with the harness. Okay, so long story short, if you put your you put your configuration of Sol in Ultra and then you start doing stuff, for some reason, every time it launches a sub agent, the sub agent is not in a lower level of thinking. It's always on Ultra, and it consumes all your usage in half an hour, because that should not be the case. Actually, before, when you were launching a sub agent, you were launching a smaller sub agent, because it's a sub agent, right? It's a sub task. Like there's no point for you to use like the full power of everything in a sub task, right? And for some reason, they decide not to do that, and it makes absolutely no sense, and it consumes all your usage. So, just from our point of view, if you're using Sol, don't use Ultra, just use High, and you're going to be okay. But on our own experience, it's a worse model than Fable. We're not going to say here like, oh my god, it's better than Fable, like, on everything. No, no, no. Like, Fable was this thing that feels like this is the next step. Like, this is what it is. Like, this is the next step, and there's nothing that can compete against this, okay? But I will say that I respect OpenAI for 2 reasons. First of all, it's not Fable level by any means, but it's probably 80% there. It's decent enough that we'll get most of your tasks done really well, and well enough that you can ship them with no issues, okay? Like, this is how good it is. But if I remember correctly, Fable 5, I think it's a 5 trillion parameter, like something insane like that. And looks like Sol is actually half. So that's amazing. Like, that's amazing. If really this is half the size of Fable, but it's 80% there, holy, I won't say the next word, but
Holy moly.
like,
That's huge.
that's amazing. That's amazing. Like 80% of the performance for half the size, it's insane work. I have no idea how we're able to do this, and I think they should talk more about it. Like, I feel like OpenAI doesn't want to put this out of the open, because they will. I think they imagine that, oh my god, like, like we are doing these tiny models, how bad, while Anthropic is doing this massive thing, right? And it's like, brother, you're thinking the wrong side, the wrong way, right? Like, if you have a model half the size, doing 80% of what Fable is doing, you are winning. Like, you are winning.
Yeah.
That's a fact. That's a fact, okay? Because if you're telling me that you are able to go faster in a Volkswagen Beetle than in a Lamborghini, I'll be really surprised about the Volkswagen Beetle, not about the Lamborghini. Like
Yeah, exactly. Like
if
you're
you
at a
tell me,
drag
oh,
race.
a Lamborghini can go 200 kilometers per hour or 200 miles per hour, right? And I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, of course, I expect that, right? Like that's
Beetle can
nothing
go
new.
160 though. Like
Yeah, if you're
that's
telling
pretty
me
good.
that a freaking Volkswagen Beetle can go 180, like with stable, I'll be like, holy, how is that even
And it
possible?
costs way less.
Way
Like
less. Uh-huh.
yeah,
So of course, right? Like that's the real news there, and I haven't seen neither Sam Altman or OpenAI making a bigger case for that.
yeah,
But I feel that it's probably because they want to make the case that they are like this massive business, and instead of like it threatens them probably that Fable is just this massive monster. Uh, but sadly, I would say like OpenAI is doing great with this model. It's just the fact that it's just smaller and just so good at that size, and that their token usage is so low. It's insane. It's insane. It's insane. And we should get. We have talked about this, but we feel like that's kind of like the next thing that should happen, right? Besides open source models, like models that they use less tokens can do better, and even that are very good at specific use cases, right? We believe that should be the future. Like it makes no sense in my head that we will need to. I don't know. Even if we could get Fable locally, right? We will need to spend like $80,000 to run that thing. Like it makes no sense whatsoever. Why? Like so. Yeah, I applaud that. I mean, I know, of course, Sol, Terra, and Luna are not open source models by any means. Uh, but I hope that eventually one day they come back into the open part of OpenAI that they were supposed to be.
yeah, right. Haven't been there for a while.
Yeah, and we can get a little bit of this. But I'm rooting for them. Okay, I really hope they keep pushing this. And I have a conspiracy theory, or rather, or kind of, I think they will leave Fable on because they were supposed to stop that today, which because today is 12, this is where we record podcast. I think they will be forced to keep Fable because even if it's 80% as good as Fable, that's good enough, brother. If they cancel Fable from our subscription from Anthropic, we can probably just cancel the whole subscription and just go 200 on OpenAI. But yeah, I don't know what you think about this.
So I've got a lot of thoughts on it, and I do agree. Even 80% at half the size, half the price, whatever, very, very impressive. And I do think OpenAI is selling themselves short a bit. They're not selling themselves enough. Well, but also, I think, like you mentioned, Sam Altman's not talking about it. OpenAI is not talking about it. I almost feel like they don't even care because these model release cycles are getting faster and faster. And like, yeah, 5.6 is out now, but like they're probably already working on 6. They're probably like it's out. They don't care. They're on to the next one, right? Like whether people use it or not. Like if it is as good as we are saying it is, people will naturally migrate to it once they realize that, right? Anthropic's marketing is unmatched when it comes to them versus OpenAI. Like they've just had great marketing strategies, whether or not they actually intended to do it with like all the things they've said in the past few months. But also with I think the naming team is having a lot more fun than the engineering team because they go from potato to like now we're doing celestial bodies and like I don't know where we're gonna
Yeah,
go next. It's gonna be quite the
supernova
laugh.
or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's gonna be some like Greek like mythological god no one's ever heard of or can't even pronounce their name like pseudonymity or like something. But like you said, it is, and we've talked about this. I do think smaller, more efficient models is the way to go. Because at that point, if you have like you said, like people are using Fable for everything, like using Fable to like move a file to somewhere else on your computer. It's like using a giant blowtorch,
Guilty,
like
guilty
a
as
little
charged.
cigarette. I've done it too. I've done it too, but it's like it's like way overpowered and like yeah, you can do it, but like Why would you? It's like hopping into a train to like go across the street. Like it's not what it's built for. Um,
Hmm.
but going back to what we said about the small, efficient, like hyper focused, like skillful models that are really good at different things, and then building like a multi agent routing system on top of it. Like we've said it like probably over a month ago now. Like we're entering the age of harnesses, right? Because these
Hmm.
models, as more and more come out, they're gonna peak at some point, right? Like it can only get so good. I mean, hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully it can get infinitely good, and like they can turn on a model and it solves cancer or something. Like that'd be ideal. It can build like time travel. Like who knows? Like, but the point that we're at now, we're just trying to make cool things. We're trying to make cool things and make people's lives easier. Um, and yeah, I think having cheap, efficient models and building some type of routing system to say, hey, here's an orchestrator, here's the big task we got to do, break it down into tasks, figure out who's good at what, and like have them go off and do their task until the whole project is done. Right? And yeah, I think hopefully that's the direction we're going. And I do agree, like OpenAI isn't open anymore. None of its code is open source. But at the end of the day, I don't care if it's open source, closed sourced, open weight or not, as long as it's fast, cheap, and good. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
the best model that we could use could be locked behind a paywall, but if it's worth the money and it makes my life easier, I'll pay for it. If the best model is an open source one that I got to go buy like 3 Mac Minis to run, and it's the most like cost effective way to do it, I'll do that. It's going to be tough to keep up with things as they go, but that's between the labs, not me. I just got to figure out which one's the best for me to use, and I think that's going to be the same for most people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so next story, SpaceX AI, Grok 4.5. What happened on July 8th? SpaceX AI released Grok 4.5 for coding, agentic tasks, and knowledge work. The model is available through the XAI API. How come I get all the ones that are hard to like say? Like it's all like very alliterative. All my stories. So it's available through the XAI API, Grok Build, and Cursor, which they just bought. SpaceX AI prices it at $2 per million input tokens and $6 per million output tokens. Its own results place it near larger competing models on coding and professional work tests, but below the strongest result on several published comparisons. So, I mean, we really got to get our own benchmark up and running because obviously Grok AI is going to say it's great, right? They're going to say, yeah, we performed great on all our own tests. Use our stuff, pay us money. Um, but then at the same time, like I really don't like. I've said a million times. All these benchmarks they mean almost nothing to me because they can be gamed. Like you could build a
Hmm.
model that's just really good at passing benchmarks, but can't do anything else. But if
Gemini
it is
models.
cheaper,
Gemini
yeah,
models. Gemini
exactly.
models is literally like I think 3 points below Opus, and it's like no.
Right. But the thing with this is, and it depends on the project that you're on, project that you're building, and if you're like working at some enterprise company, the chances of getting this on is slim to none, unless you work with like a very fast-paced like C-suite level team, right? Because onboarding a new AI is going to take forever, right? And not to mention how much it's going to cost depending on the contracts that you're in with whatever you're using now, right? So even if this is the cheapest per like input token price, it doesn't account for like the actual cost. It You have to pay to switch, right? Does that make sense? So like
I think
for
so.
individual users, yeah, you can just use whatever you want on whatever project you want because you're just building your own little personal projects. But at like an enterprise level, I think it's going to be hard for XAI to like break into that industry because Anthropic and OpenAI are already so established, even though it's only been like what, maybe a year tops for some of the like more legacy companies that have been adopting these. But I mean, if it can prove its worth, then give it some time, and I'm sure it'll start filtering in. Maybe it'll be the first AI used on Mars.
That'll be fun.
Be pretty cool. What do you think?
So this is really interesting. I was not expecting this to be the week where both Meta and Grok, or this case Space AI, they get their stuff together finally, and they start actually competing. Because, for example, you had Grok Heavy, right? And Grok Heavy is pretty much useless for everybody because it's so expensive and massive that nobody's using it. That's the reality. Like, it doesn't matter, like, oh, it's better than Opus. Yeah, but it's like 2 times more expensive than Opus. Like, and Opus is already super expensive. Okay, like it makes no sense to use it to get just a little bit better than Opus. Um, and the reality is, like, I was not expecting them neither to be able to, from time to time, maybe getting something there out there. Uh, But I think this happened because they acquired Cursor, right? And Composer 2 actually, it's a pretty good model for the price. It's really cheap and it's really fast. It's not the smartest, okay, by any means, but for most easy tasks, like moving a UI around, like stuff that we have done so many times, it's more than enough. That's a reality. And I think that probably like a part of that team that were on the training on the Composer 2, they were on the training of Grok 4.5 because it feels a lot like that. It's lightweight, it's really, really fast, and it's cheaper. But this one is actually on the level of Opus. And we're back at this like conversation about that sadly now everything is Fable or not Fable, right? Like, it doesn't matter anymore, right? Like, you can tell me, oh, we have this model that actually competes with Opus, and it's like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't use Opus anymore. Like, well, maybe after
Right,
after
okay,
today
cool.
we will be back to Opus. I don't know. We'll see about that, right? Uh, but it feels not impressive anymore. I'm not gonna lie, it feels not impressive anymore, and that's an issue. That's an issue because the reality is like Fable will be removed tomorrow for us that we're recording.
See.
So it will be a few days by the moment you listen to this podcast that we'll have Fable anymore. Uh, but the reality is like, while it feels like it's not a great thing, it's actually pretty decent for the fact of that it's faster and it's just cheaper. And if we can get a lot of the tasks done, right, for cheaper, we always like that. Like, the reality is like we want cheap, fast, good models for everybody, right? So I just hope that that they will open source this, because Elon Musk has been really pro open source, and one of the things that I realize a lot of people don't know about this, but the whole design of the Tesla is pretty much open source, including their network. Actually, their network is open to other manufacturers like Mercedes. They use the network of Tesla because they're just better at it. Um, and they open source a lot of designs about a lot of things. And Elon was saying that the reason why is because the thing that he cares the most is about advancing society as a whole, right? And a lot of people dislike Elon. I know that, because he's not like lefty or something. Like, they're angry with him all the time.
A
Uh,
trillionaire.
yeah, I have. I
Pay
don't know
for
what they
everyone's food.
like. Like, it freaks me out. That they were expecting like somebody as autistic as Elon to be normal. Like, what are we thinking? Like, how weird it is that you're asking somebody like so heavily autistic that makes rockets and all these things just to be a normal person, balance. Like that he won't say anything outrageous. Like, come on, like, please, make it make sense, right? Uh, but I hope he open source these models. I hope they can push even more, and I'm really happy to see all this competition growing. I'm really happy to see the Chinese models. I'm really happy to see Meta back into business finally. I'm really happy to see SpaceX AI finally back into business with a real model, not just this massive Grok whatever.
Yeah, Grok
And
is
I
like,
really hope we get to see more of this. Like I really hope so. You know that everybody, all these labs are just competing like toe to toe, and we get better models, faster models, cheaper models, right? And we can just keep like that level of innovation nonstop. I'm not sure if it's going to if we're going to be able to. Be fair, I feel like all the models will eventually collapse because of contamination of data and all that. But I hope we can get something nice from this. You know.
yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I, competition is supposed to be a good thing, and as long as it makes my life easier, and like you said, it's if it runs better, is cheaper, makes our lives easier. That's what I care about. That's totally in my wheelhouse because beginning of the show, like I said, I come from the lens of execution. Like, what helps us execute things faster? What helps us get things done on a quicker turnaround rate? What if it's a faster feedback loop? If it's a cheaper model, a faster model, like a new harness that we can build, let's build it. Like I'm always on board. So yeah, I'm happy to see SpaceX AI like breaking into the industry here. Hopefully, we see some more good things about them. I mean, it's it's only episode 14, and like things have already changed so much in these past 14 weeks. And I could totally see by episode 20 or 25 us saying like, man, SpaceX AI, it's the new top dog. You know what I mean? But like you said, like everything is being compared to Fable, and I don't think it's fair. And
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
it's tough to like. I mean, you got to gauge what your users want, right? And like for me, I mean, there's, and I hate this word, there's more nuance in the model discussions than is it as good as Fable? It's like, especially if you're like on one of the finance teams saying like, please stop using Fable. Like, stop using Fable for everything. Start figuring out like better, cheaper models that can get the job done. So, yeah, I'm happy to see it. Happy to see the competition.
Same, same. So, okay, let's jump into the last news from Signal or Noise. And this one is being super fun all around, right? Which is Anthropic and OpenAI, they turn the usage resets into a rotation fight. And I think this is 100% Signal. And this is a combination of news, okay? So let me go through this. So on July 7th, Anthropic extended the inclusion of Fable 5 access like for all the plans, you know, through July 14, right? Literally July 12th, sorry, which is today for us, you know, until 12 Pacific time, which is going to be over every day. It's over actually. So sad. Um, and but the thing is, like Fable use like 50% more of your weekly usage, which is insane. So by July 9, Anthropic they offer a reset, right, of your 5 hours and your weekly limit. And we're in like in the middle of like of working so some some little products that we're working on for our clients, and pretty much we just saw the reset going on before the news happened. Well, and I was like, oh, in the beginning I was like, OpenAI is down, like it's a 0%, like what's going on? Uh, and then I left it like 5 minutes or whatever, but then I went into Cloud Code and put like slash usage, and I got 0% back again. I was like, I was 91% usage. What's going on, you know? And I opened x.com and I realized that they posted, hey, we just keep your, you know, everybody got a reset, blah blah blah, you know. So long story short, OpenAI product leader Thibault, and then a last name that I cannot say, so I'm sorry. So Tiaux,
Sotio.
what is this, like French or
Sotio.
something?
It looks French.
Uh, so he responded with an interpret reset with a post that says, "I smell fear." That's a great response from him. So so then OpenAI they promise like two Codex usage resets within like literally 24 hours or so, you know. So because what happens, like they a lot of people start abusing literally like Sol 5.6 on Ultra, and they completely run out of usage, and they offer reset. and then a little bit later another one, which is insane. Like, because I mean, I was going there, to eventually get my limit with the OpenAI subscription that I have, but they got reset twice. Like, I'm back at zero again. Like, so neither company said like customer retention was the reason. I don't think they want to say this openly. I, but the timing, on the public exchange make the competitive intention a fair debate. And the reason why I said that this signal is that, uh, I'm going full Alex Jones right here with my conspiracy theory. Okay, so let me put my thoughts into words. But this is what I think is going to happen. I think Anthropic realizes that Soul is 80% there of Fable, and they know that while Fable is completely too expensive for them to run, because it is too expensive. Like I said, like the comments are that it's actually twice as big as 5.6 Soul, which is the biggest one from OpenAI. So because it's so big, but OpenAI model is so good and they're so close and it's completely included in their subscription. I think that eventually, not eventually, like probably in this next week, we will see Anthropic offering Fable back in subscriptions, probably only for $100 and $200 one. Hey, so Oscar from the future here. So we were right. As of today, which is uh, Monday, July 13th, OpenAI officially extended the use of Fable. Told you it was going to happen. So back to the episode. But they will make. I'm sure this is what they are going to do, and everybody will be angry anyways. So that now it doesn't only take 50% more of your weekly usage; it actually takes 100% of your weekly usage, which means that it's going to be twice as expensive, right? As you can imagine. Some people will be happy with that deal, and they will keep their $200 one, and some people will just jump into OpenAI and say, whatever, I just get the $200 and it is going to be more than enough, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why I think they're going to keep Fable is because they know Opus is not great. At this point, it's not great, and this is why they're talking about launching Opus 5 in the next weeks. So the only thing that can happen here is either Opus 5, it's 80% as good as Fable, right? And they can compete directly with Soul, and in that way they don't need to leave Fable on, or they'll be forced completely to leave Fable on and just let the users run through a lot of money, which I don't think they will. I don't think they will. I think they will leave it, but maybe on that it's going to use a lot of your usage, like insane amount. And the reality is, like, most people, when they realize how little usage they will get, they will be angry because they feel like they're paying a lot of money. Just come on, $200 subscription is a lot of money. So we will see here. We'll see here because we're starting to get into the commoditization of models, and the reality is that we won't get better results because of models. We will get better results because of harnesses. So this is going to be a very interesting next week. Next 1-2 weeks, we're going to see a lot of crazy stuff happening. So I don't know what you think about it.
So, I mean, I was saying before, right? Like, this is the first model that they've like taken away, right? It's the first model that they've said this one's not included in your $200 a month fee, right? And it is good, right? Like, it's a great model. I've done a lot of really good things with it, but at the same time, like, these other labs are totally catching up. And like we've said it so many times, we don't have to rehash it, but even 80% performance for half the size, half the cost is tremendous. For most people, for like 99% of like people out there building things, that's more than enough. 80% of Fable is more than enough to build anything you could ever dream of. Um, but people like us who are like constantly running projects, like multiple projects at a time, like Fable gets things done faster for us. Um, Here's the thing, though: the labs fighting over your quota. It only matters if you're actually meeting that quota, right? And I do think it's very telling that Anthropic keeps extending the timeline for it, and it's either could be user backlash, right? People were posting saying, "Hey, this is like I didn't have enough time, like I was out with my family, like I didn't even get to use it," and they're like, "Okay, here's 5 more days," right? It could also be a few things, right? It could be like they didn't get the adoption they thought they would. They it could be like a ploy to improve retention, like if we let you use it a little bit longer, like maybe you want it more. But knowing Anthropic, right? I almost feel like I heard somebody say the other day, like maybe they wanted more time to like analyze the load on their infrastructure, right? But like I don't see the I don't see the user amounts going up after it is no longer included, right? I actually see the user usage going down, obviously, because I've said it a million times, like I'm not going to pay for Fable. I'm not going to pay for the tokens for Fable. I'll continue to pay my subscription, but if they take Fable away, I don't know if I'm going to want to use it. But I actually haven't met my Fable usage allotment, right? And it's not because I wasn't using it, because I was using it a lot. It's more to do with the thing we're going to talk about later, where it has to do with multi-agent orchestration, right? And it's really, you can be really efficient with it if you know what you're doing, or if you find a tool that like can help you with the multi-agent orchestration. So I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but I mean, by the time this episode comes out, we'll know whether or not Anthropic extended the deadline again, and if they did, then I would say there's more to the story than what they're saying. But if they stick to their guns and they say nope, it's gone, you got to pay extra for it now, then we'll see how it works out for them. I don't see it working out very well if they give you a taste and then say it's gone. You got to pay extra for it because.
Yeah, same. I don't think they will make it alive.
But if they walk it back and they say, yeah, we thought about it, but we're just gonna keep it. We're gonna keep it in there. You get it. We might limit it still. You like even if it still limits at 50%, 100% usage, like then you're cut off. It'd be easier to bear than if they actually get rid of it and put it behind a gigantic paywall, because it is insanely expensive. Insane. Okay, so let's jump into No Jargon Required, which we have on the slate for this week. So No Jargon Required, we take technical like terms, especially ones around AI, we try to break them down into like non-technical like ways that you can understand it without like being a totally technical person. So we've used a couple of these terms throughout this episode, and the first one I want to bring up is multi-agent orchestration. So what is it? One AI can do a task start to finish. It might take a long time. It might fill the context window, but it can usually get the job done. Multi-agent orchestration splits the task among several AI workers. One plans, one searches, one writes, one tests. You got, it's basically a whole team of agents almost. And so it helps when parts of the job can happen at the same time or apart from each other or independently. They don't rely on each other to be done. In order, like, you can do tasks A and B at the same time, but C has to wait for A. You can have two agents, one working A, working B at the same time, and then when A is finished, it can do C. Just for like a very, very simple like analogy, right? So 3 agents can review 3 documents at the same time, but it hurts when every step depends on the one before it. That's when it can be tough to implement some type of multi-agent orchestration. That's when the system starts spending time coordinating. You do this, and then when that one's done, you do this, and it causes a lot of waiting around. It causes a lot of repeated work, and it needs a lot more human interaction for things like that. The word orchestration in this context basically just means management. You have an orchestrator who is keeping track of all the agents, keeping track of what's getting done, who's doing what, and who needs a new task, right? So you need to decide who does what each worker can access, when it should stop, who checks the results, all this stuff. These are all things that you need to have in place. Um, so I mentioned earlier how I never actually met my usage limit for Fable. And it's because one of the first things that I built with Fable is called the Orchard. And this is really exciting stuff. And we've been using it internally a little bit, and we've been getting some pretty good results. So what is the Orchard? So once you're dabbling in multi-agent orchestration, once you're running a fleet of agents, it the bottleneck isn't like how many agents you can run. It's not how fast the agents can go, how well they perform. The bottleneck is how seamlessly you can interact with all these different agents. So I don't know how most people are interacting with agents, but technically, like most of the time, you have one chat window per model per agent that you're talking to, right? And that's fine to do it that way. That's how you get into this stuff. But once you're doing multi-agent orchestration, if you're the orchestrator yourself, you're sitting there with your string covered in terminal windows or like different tabs with all these different chats, and you got to figure out which one's doing what, like who's waiting on me to like approve something. So our goal with the Orchard was to flip it on its head, right? First off, the terminal chat window is very unoptimized for actually typing. Like you can't scroll up, you can't type a big message, like you can't click and drag, and like it was very unoptimized, right? Um, so what we did is we built a tool that has like a very modernized chat interface. It's very customizable, and the cool thing is you can create new group chats with groups of agents, and you can define these agents. You can say what model they use, what your goal is, what your job is, and how I want you to get things done. And right now it works with Claude models, but we're going to add different types of models in the future. That's on the roadmap. But the way that I got around the Fable limits is I had a team of agents in the Orchard inside of a grove, which is what it's called when you have a group chat with agents. I had the architect using Fable. I had the designer using Fable, and I had the product owner using Fable. And then I had a front end developer, a back end developer, and a tester all using Opus. So when I would interact with it, I would give it a prompt, say, hey, here's something we want to build, right? And I just started with something small. I said, let's make a simple snake game. I just want to play Snake. I want it to look cool. I want it to have cool features. And I kicked it off, and you could see them all talking to each other. You could see the Fable architect saying, hey, he wants a Snake game. Let's start planning this out. And then the back end dev says, all right, I'm going to start building the directory for it. The front end dev says, hey, product owner, what colors should we use? And it was really interesting to see this run with very minimal prompting. And by the time I checked like the usage, Fable was used almost not at all, because it ran one prompt to plan it all, one prompt to come up with designs, and then that was it. The other prompt of Fable was just monitoring the usage of the other one. So it was just ingesting a few tokens here and there, while Opus was doing the rest of the work with, and we could trust Opus with this one because it was a meticulously built plan using Fable. So yeah, so we built this, and I think it's a really great tool. It's called the Orchard. If you're interested in trying it out, feel free to give us an email. We'd be happy to show it to you. But yeah, so multi-agent orchestration is basically having a lot of agentic processes running simultaneously with either you or some other process monitoring all of them. Basically like having a team. Anything I missed, you think?
No, I think you hit the nail. In a lot of ways, I think that if we had to put this like in very human level, right? Uh, if we would have to say like, oh, like in the easiest way that I can imagine, it's like when you work with more people, you have a full team, right?
Mhm.
You have a full team. And for example, here at Valley Seed, it's not just me and Matt doing code. You know what I mean? That'll be probably a disaster in a lot of ways. Uh, but we have other people that they have specific jobs. You know, like project management. You know, designer, stuff like that, right? And this is, of course, pretty common. Like everybody has their own task, their own skills. They do their own thing, right? And because of that, you can be very specific about the task that that specific person can do, right? So it's kind of the same with the agent orchestration, right? Um, like instead of using, for example, 5 lawyers to manage some lawsuit, right? In the case of Apple, for example, against OpenAI, you don't get like 5 lawyers that you need to pay them uh, $100,000 per week. Okay, you get one of those, right? And then what do you get below that this person? You probably get a few paralegals, right? Paralegals are great to like fill information, manage stuff, you know, and all that. But they don't have the knowledge of this lawyer that is on the top, right? So it would make sense for you to get another of those extremely expensive lawyers to do the work. Sorry, than a paralegal can do, right? Because that'll be stupid, right? Probably the lawyer won't do it anyway. They will tell you you're crazy, you know, like get somebody else to do so, right? So it's kind of the same thing, right? It's kind of the same thing. Like it's a general bad idea to try to get the most expensive model to do the most basic task. It doesn't make any sense, you know. So that's where the whole orchestration comes.
Well, if you think about it, also like the word orchestration, right, or orchestrator, it's like an orchestrator is the person who writes ensembles for orchestras to play, right? So they're writing
Hmm.
every line for every instrument, every like part of the whole song, right?
Hmm.
So they write music for the flute, they write the music for the percussion, they write the music for the tubas, for the trombones, for the trumpets, like everything. They write it meticulously, like the whole thing. And that's
Hmm.
what the orchestrator in this instance is. It tells, like, you consider each member of the band to be another agent, but in this case, we're building something like software release. We're not building music, we're building tools, we're building websites, we're building, whatever it might be. The orchestrator is the one saying, hey, you do this. You do this. After he's done, you do this. When, that's the orchestrator. And that's the one above it all, making sure everything behaves properly and everything is completed properly.
If I had like to give to the non-technical people like a way about how to manage this type of like sub agents and all that, I will say that if you're building a product, probably a product manager all the way on top will be your best bet. Below that, a software architect that is going to just check that the code is great and everything else. And below that, you can have like some, you know, medium to junior developers, you know, as profiles. And of course, you can have maybe like a graphic designer slash UI UX developer, right? Um, and maybe some type of like project manager that is going to be just to be checking that the tasks are actually done exactly the way we're expecting, right? And that there alone, you know, I know that I just throw a lot of words to you, but that alone will be like a whole developer team if you want that you can replicate. Okay, like that doesn't mean that's the best way to do things. Okay, by any means, it just means that that's a starting point. Okay, and probably along along the lines you will need to actually change a little bit your implementation, right? Maybe you don't need the architect for this case because you're just doing an MVP and it's in your interest just to move faster, you know. Like it really depends of your situation, but the orchestration is one of those things that make everything just to make sense, and not only that, but make one agent actually check if the other one is behaving in some ways correctly. Um, it's a great way. It's a great way to keep things in line. Doesn't mean they're going to be perfect by any means, okay? But you get better results. You do get better results. That's fact. Yeah.
I think the time when you will know you need an orchestrator is when you have more than one chat with Claude or ChatGPT or whatever agent you're using. If you have more than one chat and you're going back and forth saying, well, this one said this, like now you do this. And then it's like, well, ask him for
Copy
clarification.
pasting between them,
Yeah, you're
right?
copy pasting between like instances with AI chats. Like you need an orchestrator. And if you need help, just let me know. Like I'd be happy to help you. So what else?
Oh, yeah, and now I will say the email correctly because last time I didn't. I say, like I said, info. This is not info. It's hi@valleyseed.com. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I was confused. Okay, it was late. I was sleepy, and I needed some coffee. Clearly, but yeah,
So you ever
you can
got
email us
questions?
at yeah.
Yeah. Want to try any of our stuff? You got questions? You want to talk about? Shoot us an email. We'll,
That will work. Okay, so let's jump into concept number two. This is going to be model routing. You will probably think that it's the same as orchestration. It's not. This is different. Okay. So let me explain why this matters now. Okay. So now that we have GPT 5.6 with Sol, Terra, and Luna, they have different levels of capability, speed, and price, right? Grok 4.5 adds like another like lower price option for coding and knowledge work. So teams now need rules for choosing which model handles each type of request. Okay. So if we had to put this in plain English, pretty much, like you do not ask your most senior employee to handle like every routine request. Okay. AI products can make the same choices, right? A fast, cheaper model handles simple work. A stronger model handles the harder cases, and a router decides which one gets requests. Okay. So, for example, the router can use simple rules. Okay. Some type of short classification goes to the fast model. Uh, a contract review goes to the strong model. If the fast model is uncertain, then the product send the task upwards to a better model, right? And the user may never see the switch. And just for context, this is exactly what Cloud Code is doing right now with Fable. Some people realized that Fable wasn't doing as great as before they taken Fable away from us for 2 weeks, and when it came back worse, which is true. And that's the reason, because Fable now for some task is actually rerouting you to Opus, and the reason is they say because of security reasons. Bull crap, you know what I mean? Like a bull crap is clearly not that's not the case, right? So long story short, like good routing cuts like the wait time and calls without lowering the quality. And bad routing sends hard work to the weak models or sends everything to the expensive one, right? And we don't want that. So the hard part is not connecting three models. It is defining the test that tells you when each model succeeds, okay? And I'm sure you're thinking, well, what is the difference with multi-agent orchestration? Okay, I'm so happy that you're asking that. So, look, the routing, I'm talking to myself here, right?
Great question, Oscar.
Great question from me. So, okay, the multi-agent orchestration usually have a very specific type of job. Like we said, you have architects, you have designers, UI, UX, this type of things. Okay. Inside each one of those can have model routing actually, right? Because, for example, if you are asking a multi sub agent, right, that is as specialized in UI UX, right? That specific agent can do several things, like way many things. They can do like they can check if the font makes sense for the type of branding that you have, right? It can check the colors. It can do a lot of things, really, regarding UI UX. It's not just one type of job. So inside that sub agent, it can actually have a proper model routing, right? Where it will go and it will go into a smaller, okay, agent that will check only hey, extract me the colors, right, of this project, right? Okay, these are the colors. Okay, now we can make a color palette for the branding, right? So it pretty much can use inside the model routing, right, to get the right response that they need in the moment, right? So it's one of those things that it just makes sense actually to let it happen. So as you can see, like model routing can actually be on top, right? Can actually be on top uh, of the model, but actually the orchestration, right, that we're talking is even in a higher position. Okay, so it's very different in a lot of ways, and I know that it can be a little bit confusing. Okay, for sure, you'll be thinking that that sounds kind of the same, but if I had to compare this, right, it will be that the the person in charge of a product, okay, of a whole product, will be probably the product manager, right? And that's pretty much the orchestrator in a lot of ways because he's orchestrating all the people below them, right? But because you have structures, right, you give the task, right, to a specific architect, right? But the architect decides that, oh, this task is actually not for me. This is like I am too high in this tree, right, to do this. So I will pass this to the senior, right? And then the senior says like, oh, this task is very easy, so I will pass this to the junior, right? So this is how it's going to work, right? So you have the orchestrator on top, and then inside each one of those models, they have their own model routing, right? That you can use for these specific cases. So that's how it works. It's kind of like the generic idea about this. Like we said, a lot of these models actually already have the routing included. Some of them they don't, and this is why a lot of times you need to pay a lot of money for for usage because there's clearly a problem with that. And one of the great things about Cloud Code is as a harness they have a tendency of doing a lot of this behind. They do a lot of routing, that you don't even notice. And the amazing thing about this is that it just works. Like it just works. It's pretty easy. You don't realize that things are happening. It just happens. Um, and the idea is that when you build something that is like routing the models, you want to make it as seamless as possible, that the person don't realize what's happening. If this takes a long time for the routing, forget about it. Like you're doing it wrong. It needs to be fast. It needs to be like crispy. It's like, hey, what's going on? Okay, this model, right? Like fast, fast, fast. Um,
I think
and one of the super cool things that you can do with model routing is like you need to be like in one ecosystem, right? You'll need to be in one ecosystem, and that's one of the great things. Like for example, if you build like a nice routing system, for example, if you are, I don't know, you have your model that is like your agent that is specialized in UI UX, right? But then you need to extract something from a picture, okay? Route that to Gemini model. I know we crap a lot to Gemini models, okay, in a lot of ways. Uh,
they're good
but
with pictures,
visually,
but
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Visual understanding, they are the best by ever. It's not even close. Okay, like they're really good at that. So just use one of the faster ones, right? Gemini 2.5 Fast Flash, perfect for that task, right? So that's how you need to see these things. And well, you've had more questions, right? And you will need some help in this like process of having your multi-agent orchestration, model routing, all that, let us know. You can send an email at hi@valisi.com. We'll be happy to help you. Uh, that's what we are here, we're here to help everybody that needs some help in this process.
I actually have another analogy just in case we haven't hammered home the difference between
Drop
multi-agent
it.
orchestration, and model routing. So both my brothers are like very involved in construction, like real construction, and not like the one of them's
Manly
like more,
construction, no,
yeah,
not
like
like
the
us.
manly stuff. Like I always tell people like, yeah, we're all in construction. It's just they build real stuff. I build websites. It's like they're like real men. I like sit at my desk. But like, so one of them's a foreman. He works on huge projects, right? So a foreman at a construction site is the one making sure everybody's got a job to do and making sure everybody is doing their job safely and correctly, right? But a foreman's not going to say, "Hey, we need concrete for to level out this whole floor for this building," right? He's not going to say, "Go get a couple bags, go do this." The person he tells to do that is going to say, "Okay, I gotta get concrete for this. Do I need to go get a cement truck, or do I just get a couple bags of cement?" Right. So in this instance, the multi-agent orchestrator would be the foreman. The model routing would be the construction worker when they're determining, do I need a hammer or do I need a jackhammer? Do I need like a ruler or do I need a level, like a laser level, right? Like what
Mhm.
tool do I need to get this job done the most efficiently? Because you're not going to bring a sledgehammer to hammer in a nail, right? That's basically like using Fable to move a file on your computer. So
Change the name of a folder.
yeah, change the name of this folder. It's like, yeah. So hopefully that makes it a little bit more clear, right? The orchestrator is the one making sure everyone's got a job. The model routing is making sure you're using the right tool for the job.
Agree. I think that makes sense. Like maybe we go too far with these analogies always, but we're really trying to explain this in the most normal ways that we can.
I want my grandma to be
So
able to explain this to someone, right? Like at her bridge club.
that's a great way to see it, right? Like, can your grandma explain what you're saying? Yeah,
Yeah, I don't care, Lily. Just it's your turn. Go.
that's a more useful benchmark than all these weird benchmarks we have with these models, really.
Can your grandma? Can your abuela explain it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Um. So, unpopular opinions.
hell yeah.
We do it
So
every
let's.
episode. We try to bring in a couple unpopular opinions that mostly they're unpopular for like the CEOs of Anthropic and OpenAPI, like OpenAPI. Like typically, like they're not usually like super spicy that every user is going to be mad. Once in a while, they are, but like mostly they're just
Oh,
unpopular.
we already have some angry people at one of our videos. I remember. I think I didn't tell you about this, but it's a video that where you said I don't remember a single thing where government intervention make anything cheaper or better.
Yeah,
And damn, there's angry people in some of the posts. Like saying like that's objectively not true. Blah 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 blah. And it's like I'm just here laughing. Like so much about this because like brother, go touch some grass, please. Like
just
don't
they're
take this
commenting.
so seriously. Like so, like oh my god. It's like
Yeah,
too
that's a good one.
serious. Too serious. These people are too serious.
You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
Let me go first since we're in this. Okay, so here's my popular opinion. It's going to probably come with a plot twist as always. So this is my opinion. I think the Apple's lawsuit is kind of like a warning for every AI company hiring from competitors. And we have seen this in the last weeks, right? We have seen how OpenAI and Anthropic are like stealing people from Google, right? And how it's like they are just jumping around, everywhere, right? And and one of the things is like talent does not arrive empty-handed. You learn things, right? Where you are working. If your onboarding process does not separate like experience from confidential material, your product roadmap can become evidence of the things you did wrong. Okay, um, I know it's kind of hard to separate, like to separate things, right? Because if you say, "Oh, but I'm like an electrical engineer specialized on creating like silicon," like like I don't know, silicon processors and all this and all that. So of course I'm going to the next business to do the same, right? Like you expect that, and it makes sense. It makes sense, right? Like that's your specialty. Is like if they will, it will be weird, like for us, at Baliseed, that we do like AI implementation and processes to say somebody that quit, right? Not to go and implement AI, process, because that's what they're doing. It's one of those things. Uh, but I think it's very obvious for you and for me what stealing IP is, right? It's very obvious. It's not that hard to understand, okay? Like, knowledge is one thing, okay? Like, stealing intellectual property, it's a very different situation. And yeah, it can be sometimes that the line is very thin between both of them, right? Uh, but you need to be smart enough. Come on. I don't believe that OpenAI, they don't know if they're stealing IP. They know. Like they know, and they're just playing this game in a lot of ways just to make it look like, oh no, Sam Altman posting on X, right? Like, oh, we have no idea. We have a lot of respect for Apple. Like, we'll never do that. I'm like, brother, come on. Like, I don't buy it. Apple doesn't buy it. I don't think anybody buys the idea that you are this moral, you know, person or business. Okay, like nobody believes that, right? So and I know that they're desperate, and I don't mean OpenAI. Like I mean all the labs. They're desperate. They're desperate because they can feel the competition breathing on their neck right here in the back. Like they can, like we're not like they are. There's no like miles away between them anymore. They are like literally right here. And in that desperation, they will commit these type of errors. Yeah, exactly. Too close. Uh, so they're going to commit errors, and they need to be smarter than that. They need to be smarter than
Just
that. I know that everybody's trying just to get to the end of the line and just win, and they will probably believe that the first that is going to win is going to be the only one that is going to win. I don't think so. I think there's going to be uh, businesses that will win in a specific market, and some others that will completely die on that market. And this is not hard to understand. In the end, the winner is not going to be the AI lab with the better model. It's going to be the AI lab with the better hardness that they can use in a real product, and that actually solves problems that people need to solve every day, right? That's the only winning game. But in that process, there's a lot of difference, right? There's a lot of difference. Like all these labs are trying to do science and legal and this and that and everything at the same time. And it's like, yeah, but now you just suck at 6 different markets, right? What about if you just do one market, you do it really, really good, and you become like the best in that market? It's not that hard to understand, right? Like they will win on that way. And I think that eventually they will realize that that's the future, and they will probably just let go a lot of the other things that are not as important. But right now they are just doing so many stupid things. Please
yeah, they're
stop.
being sloppy. They're just being sloppy.
Super sloppy. Yeah.
But to be fair, right? And like we kind of had a similar story last week with Anthropic. I think it was last week, maybe. They were accusing the Chinese labs of like diluting or distilling their model, right? And that is a much. I mean, this Apple one seems like a much stronger argument than the Anthropic one because, like I said before, like Anthropic, those were legitimate calls to their API, like getting their data. That's they paid for it, right? Whether or not they were
Mhm.
stealing your data, can't be stealing if they're paying and asking questions and your model replies. And in this instance, it's not like they released their hardware. Their competition bought it, took it apart to see how they did it, right? They hired somebody
Mhm.
who helped build it and then released it almost as fast as they did, right? And they don't have Steve Jobs anymore. So they're like flush out of ideas. And they were originally ahead of everyone with the infrastructure, the hardware for running these models. But it was almost like serendipitous than it was forethought, it seems, because they haven't progressed much. And at the same time, I don't believe progress is a zero sum game, like you said. Like, just
Hmm.
because someone else releases this before them or even releases a better one doesn't mean that they won't get users. They won't get a slice of the pie. They It doesn't mean they're going out of business, right? Not necessarily.
Hmm.
And progress can always be pushed forward and is typically only pushed forward with strong competition. I do agree this does seem shady. I don't know all the facts around it. It is strange that they can jump from company to company so quickly, especially during a partnership with no like strict NDAs or like bindings keeping them from doing that, like golden handcuffs or whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
But I'm interested to see how this plays out. But yeah, I don't. Go ahead.
I think they have NDAs, but the reality is like they are just
Okay.
if they can get this legal battle for a year, it won't matter anymore. You know what I mean? Because like they
Right.
already will be so far ahead on these things that it becomes like completely irrelevant. And this is something that happened already. I think it was from OpenAI. One of their best researchers that was like a Chinese guy. Eventually, he left with a lot of secrets,
Yep.
and he went back to China and founded like his lab. It's
Deep
like
sea. Yeah.
so it's like you're
I don't
thinking
know if it was deep sea.
what you can do actually like with somebody like that. Like China is not going to take him out of China. Like their interests are more important than anybody other interest, right? So they're like, no, no, like keep doing that. Like we want more of that, right? And this becomes like this. We already talk about this, like in a Cold War, right? We're in the beginning of a new Cold War, and this is now related to intelligence rather than weapons, because the intelligence became the weapon, right? And now we're seeing like how everybody's trying literally to steal secrets from each other, and I mean actually stealing, okay? Like we don't mean like
Literally
this weird
stealing.
stuff from Anthropic. All this stealing is stealing. No, it's not. Okay, we're like actually stealing something. Okay, like that's what we're talking here.
Yeah, like
So yeah,
physical theft. Like,
yes.
like no, they stole it. Yeah. Like, but yeah, I'm interested to see how that plays out. I guess the time will tell. Okay. So my unpopular opinion, and I want to preface this with I enjoy Fable. I like Fable. I think Fable is great, but I'm sick of hearing everything being compared to Fable. I don't care if your model is as good as Fable, if it's better than Fable. If it's close and it's faster and it's cheaper, I'm happy with it. Right? It wins in my book. And this ties directly back to the ChatGPT soul. If it's half as big, half as expensive, but 80% as good, you're winning in my opinion. The whole industry is trying to sell you these mythos class god tier models like it's the end all be all. But as we discussed earlier in No Jargon Required, like with good orchestration, good model routing, it doesn't take one god tier model to do everything. You put in place a smart conductor that has access to cheap, fast bench of agents, you can get anything done, and you can get anything done in a cost-effective way. The frontier model is almost becoming the part you use the least in this new orchestration harness world of harnesses, right? So I think the teams that are, saying, "Hey, Fable's out. Everybody start pounding Fable," and they're going to be posting on LinkedIn, "Hey, we ran up a $500,000 token budget this month because everyone's using Fable for everything." I think they're just going to look really dumb when these harnesses, these orchestration tools, like model routing is either baked into like a new, bigger, better model that just has it inherently in it, or like some type of tool like the Orchard, whatever might come out, starts gaining some traction. I think that's going to be the way that we see things going. I'm just
we
sick. I
we
don't want to hear it. Something's better than Fable. I'm just sick of
we
it.
we will repeat this 1,000 times if we need. The era of harness is upon us. Everything is about harnesses, okay? I think we didn't talk about this, but this Japanese lab came up uh, with actually. a way of getting even better results than Fable. And it's a harness. It's literally a harness. It's literally a harness. It's not a model. It's not a massive thing, like whatever. It's literally a harness. Good enough that it has the ability to create multi agents, model routing, and everything else in there. And in the end, it gets better results than using this massive 5 trillion parameters or whatever it is model that is just Fable. And it's very interesting because in one of them, I could not believe it. Like they were able to get Fable level intelligence with Gemini and ChatGPT 5.5. And it's Gemini. Yeah, exactly right. Like it's like
We're
how
not
the
making
hell
pictures, right? Like real, like intelligent.
yes, and it's like wow, like it's insane, like to see that another one was with GLM, ChatGPT, and Gemini, for example, and in that case, they were getting even better than Fable, right? And they even make the case about how even having three different ways of using ChatGPT 5.5, they're actually getting like almost on the Fable level on with the same model, and that's impressive. That's impressive because we can see that the problem is not the models anymore. The problem is not the models anymore. Right now, the main issue is the harnesses. And the better harnesses we build, the better stuff we can do. The more cool stuff we can build. So, yeah.
And the faster and cheaper we can build. That's
Yes, exactly.
cool.
Okay, so that's the episode of today. Thank you for listening to our weird rants and information that we share with you. We're very happy every time we record one of these episodes, and I hope you like it. My name is Oscar Gallo.
That was Nick. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.